my name is Daniela and today's video is going to be my incredibly overly ambitious fall TBR. It's mid-September, there's a chill in the air. I've got on my coziest sweater, I've made a little matcha, and it is finally time to start talking about fall books. I have a pretty large selection of books to share with you guys today. I think I have like 20 books to talk about, so let's not waste any time and let's dive right in. Okay, the first book, the book that I want to start this video off with, has got to be the most fall looking book I have ever seen in my entire life. And that is, I think it's called the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, have you ever seen a more fall book? I have never heard anything about this book. I don't know what it's about. I've never seen anyone that's read it, but it has been on my Pinterest like non-stop. So it has to go on the TBR. I think it's a romance. I'm not entirely sure, but this book, and I think there's a sequel as well. It's about it's like the cinnamon bun something. I don't know if the content is gonna be good, but they have the best covers ever. So I just feel like I need to own these books and have them on my shelf and like display them every single fall because they're just the most fall books that exist. Now I think I'm gonna go in categories. So first I think we're gonna talk about some mystery thrillers because that just feels the most fall. Like as soon as fall hits, I want those mysteries, I want those spooky things. I don't do scary. I do not do scary, but I love like a little spooky, a little thriller. I think that's really fun. So the first book is truly Devious. This is like, if you're gonna read a book in fall, this is the one. This takes place in like a very fancy private school in Vermont in the fall, in like September and October. And it's at a school where there was like a very crazy murder situation many years back. And this girl comes to the school and it's her goal to figure out what happened because it was never solved. There's a couple of like a couple of murders that happened around the same time but didn't seem to be connected, and she's like, I'm gonna find the missing piece, I'm gonna find the missing link. And so she's trying to figure out what happened. I actually started this book last year. You can see I got pretty far in, like almost, oh there's the bookmark. I got like almost halfway through and I just put it down, and I do not know why. It was really interesting. It's pretty spooky actually. So I'm definitely gonna be picking this book back up and finishing it this year. I think it's also part of a series, so that is super fun. The next book is The Naturals. I actually have been reading this week already. I started it. I'm like 75% of the way through, and I am literally, as soon as I'm done filming this video, I am going to go sit down and finish this book because it's so good. This book is like a YA sort of Criminal Minds. This is about Cassie, and she has a very special talent where she's able to like look at someone and talk to them for 1 second and then know everything about their personality. And so she gets kind of caught and picked up by the FBI, and she moves into this house with a bunch of teenagers that have similar skills to her, and they're all working on kind of like cold cases that the FBI never cracked from years ago, and the FBI is training them to become agents in the future. This is so fast-paced. The chapters are so short. It's so easy to read. I'm like almost completely done with it, so I'm gonna read this one, and then I do want to read the whole series this fall because they're just so quick. They are so good. If you're in a reading slump, you can definitely pick that up. Okay, the next mystery book is Here One Moment by Liane Moriarty. This is the newest book by Liane Moriarty. I've read a few of her books. I read The Big Little Lies, and I read, I think it's called 9 Perfect Strangers, but I heard the synopsis of this book and I'm really eager to pick it up. I think it just came out September 10th, really recently. And it like starts on an airplane and everyone is sitting on the plane, kind of getting settled in before the plane leaves, and this lady gets up and starts walking around the plane, and she just goes, September 15th, 2024, like whatever. And she's pointing to every single person and saying a date and then just like a little fact. And everyone's like kind of confused. They're all starting to pay attention to her, and they realize she's like telling everyone the day that they're going to die and what they're gonna die from. They're like, this is so weird. Please don't do this. Like, people are begging them. She's like, goes up to a baby at some point, and the mom is like, please don't do this. Like, do not, I don't want to hear this. And so she goes to every single person and she tells them, this is the date, this is what's gonna happen. They go on the flight, go on their merry way. Everyone's like, okay, that was kind of weird. And then one of them happens. One of the like premonitions that she says comes true and actually happens. That's like the very, very beginning of the book, and then it goes from there. And I think from what I've read from Liane Moriarty, she has such a great way of like taking all of her characters that come from totally different worlds and like bringing them together somehow. So I think this will be really interesting of how she like takes all of these passengers that were just traveling together and like ties them in and develops these connections between them. I think it's gonna be really interesting, really fast paced, and kind of a fun one. And then I have one more that I categorized as a mystery. I don't know if it's fully a mystery. And this one I'm gonna read you the synopsis for because it looks so interesting to me. This book is called Once More from the Top by Emily Layden. And it's kind of supposed to be similar to like Daisy Jones and the Six vibe, but more of a mystery. Everyone in America knows Dylan Reed, or at least has heard her music. Since releasing her debut album her senior year of high school, Dylan spent 15 years growing up in the public eye. She's not only perfected her skills when it comes to lyrics and melody, but she's also learned how to craft a public narrative that satisfies her fans, her label, and the media. In the circles of fame and celebrity in which she now travels, the careful maintenance of Dylan Reed, pop star, is often more important than the songs themselves. And so lots of people think they understand everything about Dylan Reed. But what no one knows is the part of her origin story she has successfully kept hidden. Her childhood best friend Kelsey vanished the year before Dylan became famous. Now, as Dylan's at the height of her career, Kelsey's body is found at the bottom of her hometown lake, forcing Dylan to reckon with their shared past, her friend's influence on her music, and whether there's more to the story than meets the eye. That sounds so interesting. I love when a book has like a famous person character in it. I always think it's so fun and so interesting. And so for this to be like famous but also a murder, you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. It's giving like if Taylor Swift had like a dark secret, and I am so here for it. It seems like such a good book. Okay, next category. We're gonna talk about romance books. Of course, I have to start off the romance with the most fall looking cover. I got this book last year. It is called You Again. A moment for this cover. This is so beautiful. This book is supposed to be a retelling of When Harry Met Sally, and I love that movie. I actually watched that movie for the first time last fall when we were in New York, and then the next day in New York City I went out to a little bookstore there and bought this book, and then I never got the chance to read it during fall. It just like slipped away. So I'm definitely gonna prioritize it this fall because I love When Harry Met Sally. I've heard like nothing but good things about this retelling, and so I think it's going to be a really fun one. Next in the movie retelling kind of sphere is Worst in Show. The only thing I know about this is that Abby Jimenez said that this is like You've Got Mail but with dogs. I'm in. Like, I'm so in. And that is all the information that I need. I don't know anything more about it, but I'm going to be reading it. It looks so good. I also want to read Humor Me by Kat Shook. This is a rom-com-y vibe. I think it's supposed to be like heavy on the comedy, but a book about a woman in her early 20s in New York City. I think I've heard it being comped to romantic comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld, but like better. I read Kat Shook's first book when it came out last year and absolutely loved it. It was 5 stars, and so I definitely want to pick up that book this fall. Mocktail break. The next book is The Siren of Sussex. This book is a Regency romance. That's all I know about it, and I am in. I eat up a Regency romance. I love them. I've actually never read Bridgerton, but I have seen some of the show and I've really enjoyed what I've watched. But yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about this book and from people who typically read like different genres. So I feel like it's a pretty easy one to not only read, but probably recommend. And I am moving it to the top of my TBR. This is another book I've had for quite a while that I just haven't picked up. And now that I've been hearing so many good things about it, I am way more curious and really want to read it. My last book in the like romancy section of this TBR is Pictures of You by Emma Gray. This book actually doesn't come out until November, but I've heard so much hype about it. I believe The like synopsis of this book is like a woman's life after a really, really tragic accident and how she like pieces everything back together, and a man who puts everything aside to help her do it. So it seems good. I've heard really, really glowing reviews. It looks really interesting. The cover is really cool. So that one is also one that I would really like to get to this fall. All right, the last category is fantasy, the most fun. I feel like now that it's fall, it's like cozy season. You just want to dive into another world, curl up with a blanket, and get deep into like a serious book that's gonna take you a while to get through and just like immerse you in. I feel like the fantasy books always immerse you so much because you're like taken into another world. The first book on my fall fantasy TBR is of course Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This book has been on many a TBR for me, but I'm gonna do it this month. I am determined. I am going to read this in September. I think it's about time. This book is said to be kind of like Hunger Games, but I don't know, I think I'm like the last person on earth to read it. You've probably already read it if you're watching this. So yeah, Powerless, it's happening. I am also going to be reading this fall the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I have never read nor watched the Lord of the Rings. I don't know anything about it, truly. I actually started recently reading The Hobbit, and it's really fun. It's really sweet so far. So I kind of want to slowly read The Hobbit and then read all three of the Lord of the Rings throughout the fall, like maybe one every month or so. And then after I've read it, I have some friends that are really big fans, and we're gonna like have a big sleepover weekend where we just hang out and eat a bunch of snacks and watch all of the movies over the weekend. And I'm really looking forward to that. So that's like a little motivation, a little celebration for when I finish reading it. So yeah, The Lord of the Rings. The next book is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaffer. I have also started this book. I read 80 pages and then I just like soft ENF'd it. I just wasn't really in the mood for it. I was enjoying it. I just haven't reached the part where it like gets exciting yet. I do want to read this fall, and I also want to read her second book that just came out. It looks really, really beautiful, and I've heard really, really good things about the both of them. The next book is highly anticipated for me. I have had these on my shelf, again, way too long. That is these books. Are you kidding me with these covers? I feel like I've been partially waiting for fall to read them because they just feel so fall. These are like YA, apparently horror, but hopefully not scary because I'm a chicken. This book is about a girl. This is historical fiction, but it's about a girl who wants to be a doctor, and she is not allowed to be because she's a woman, and so she decides she's just going to learn anyways. And she runs into a man, a guy, who is a grave robber, and so she decides to strike up a friendship because if she wants to learn medicine, she's gonna need to practice somehow. And so they kind of team up and things go from there. I have no idea how it happens. I've heard only good things about these books. They have been on my TBR before, but I think I'm gonna save these ones maybe for later in the fall, like November. They just feel like such a creepy, cozy book, and I'm gonna curl up and probably binge the two of them. I really want to read Dance of Thieves. I bought this book probably 2 years ago, maybe even more, and I do not know what it is about at all. I know that it's like the blueprint for so many good fantasy books, and so I've been really wanting to read it. I think I read like the first 4 pages and I was like, this is so boring. But I really want to track through and read it. Alrighty, I only have a couple more. We're getting there. Next is Sythe? Sythe? I'm gonna look it up.
How do you say it? Sythe. Sythe.
Okay, the next book is Sythe. This is in a world where I believe everyone is like eternal. People don't die anymore. There's no hunger, no disease, no war. Everyone just kind of lives at peace and lives eternally. And the only people with the power to kill are the Sythes. The back description says that a couple of teens are chosen to become apprentices as Sythes, and they have to learn the art of how to become a Sythe. And I guess things go awry. This is also the first book in a series, which I think is really fun. I love to get into a series in the fall and winter because then you don't always have to pick a new book. You can just read and then you know what's coming next. You can keep going. The last book is more of a sci-fi book than a fantasy book, but that is Ready Player One. This book involved a video game, I think. I don't know much about it. I know that there is a movie, so that definitely is intriguing to me. I love to read a book that has an adaptation because then it's kind of like a reward for reading the book. You get to watch the movie or the TV show afterwards. This will be, I think, my first sci-fi, but I'm really excited to get into a different genre. I think it'll be really, really fun. The last book on my TBR is a non-fiction book, and it is Wintering by Catherine May. It's just like a cozy essay collection about staying home and taking care of ourselves and getting into the spirit of fall and winter and rhythms and routine. I got this book like kind of later in the winter of last year, so I haven't had the chance to open it yet, but I feel like it's something that I'm gonna open and work through kind of slowly throughout the fall season because I feel like that's a really fun way to go through a nonfiction like this. Just read an essay here or there throughout the season, and then by the end of fall, winter, I'll have finished it. Alrighty guys, that is all for my list of fall books. I would love to know what you're planning to read this fall because the TBR can only get bigger, really. Let me know if you've read any of the books on this TBR and what you thought about them, and I will see you for the next one very soon. Bye!